Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So some of my viewers and people in my life generally sometimes complain that I think too lightly about death. I'm just returning to the United States. I was in Taiwan for 2 weeks. I attended my grandmother's funeral while I was there. And my mom was very offended by the fact that I had no emotion toward death. I think of death as just a continuation of life, and I sometimes talk about death almost like it's any other event, right? Like a marriage or a divorce or graduation from school, right? I do sometimes. I joke about it, and sometimes it offends the wrong people. I was on the plane 2 nights ago, and I looked at my screen, and when I looked at how much time we had on the flight, uh, it said 4 hours and 44 minutes, and I thought to myself, for his death, and I recorded a video, and then I told my seatmate. My seatmate was so upset by that remark, and everybody was sleeping, and he woke everybody up with how upset. I didn't get that on video, unfortunately, but he was so upset. And I just think very lightly about death, and it allows me to take a little bit more calculated risk in my life, right? My mom's just the other way around. She got really upset that I had gone on the date with somebody here back in Taiwan a few nights ago. She was concerned about my safety. She was concerned about me getting scammed. And was there a risk of that happening? Sure, there was. There was also a risk when she took the flight to go to Taiwan. There was a risk when she drove to the airport. There was a risk when she stayed with my father's family. Right? Let's get it out of the way. Right? Domestic violence happens all the time. Right? Does that mean that she's not going to stay with my family, talk to her in-laws? No, because the benefits of doing that and or the risks of not doing that were probably higher, right? But my mom refuses to see that, and she refuses to. She gets overly concerned. Part of the reason that I couldn't live with my family anymore is that she would get extremely sensitive about everything. One day I had gotten up really early in the morning. I wanted to go somewhere before work. And when I got to my car, she chased me out and asked, "What the hell am I doing?" And I really wanted to ask her. At this point in my life, I had lived on my own in a different city for some time. I was 27 years old. I really wanted to ask her, "Hey, did it ever occur to you that when I was living in Rochester, New York, we were in Pittsburgh, when I was in Rochester, I could get up at 3 in the morning and go somewhere. I could get up at 3 in the morning and book a flight somewhere, and you wouldn't know that. Did it ever occur to you that?" And not only because you see it now are you concerned. And she logically understood what I was saying, but she couldn't digest it, is what I'm trying to say. But she gets overly sensationalized, right? I think my mom had a fear of flying for some time too. Here's an interesting statistic about flying. If you're afraid of flying, every time you fly, the what is the number one thing that could kill you on a given flight? I'll let you pause the video to think about it, because it's probably not what you're expecting. Believe it or not, the number one risk of flying is actually the interstellar radiation killing you, and not accidents, not terrorism, not some kind of mass violence at the airport. No, those are tiny probabilities compared to the probability of an interstellar radiation event killing you, believe it or not. Of course, if you get killed by interstellar radiation on a flight, it's going to be years later, and your death certificate isn't going to mention the flight, right? It'll be cancer, heart disease, or some kind of mutation, right? So that it probably isn't going to make the news, or you're not going to turn on the news. Oh my God, 300 people died today because of different flights that they took months or years or sometimes decades earlier, right? Just thought I would point to. But when was the last time you got on a plane and you saw somebody fearful of that? When was the last time you got on a plane and saw somebody wear a lead vest to protect? Well, it can't be lead either, because lead could kill you as well. Maybe a bismuth vest covering their entire body. Right? When was the last time you saw somebody fly like that? Right? It might be worth doing that, right? If it could reduce your risk of cancer by a small amount, right? Of course, the risk of getting injured by carrying a heavy vest through the airport is probably a lot higher than the point I wanted to make is that risk is constantly being balanced, and my mom does not want to accept that, and so I can't even share with her any of this stuff anymore. And so that's why I don't think of death as we all take calculated risks, right? Um, Believe it or not, we all play Russian roulette every day, right? Whether it be with our driving, with who we decide to date, with our work choices, right? I work at a relative. Well, actually, my job might not be that physically safe either, right? School shootings happen all the time, right? Does that mean that we never work at a school, right? But my mom never stops to think about the possibility of a school shooting or a car accident. No, no. When she moves, Phoenix has a very high car accident rate, but my mom doesn't get concerned about it. Why not? I guess it's not as sensationalized as school shootings are pretty sensationalized too, but she never tells me, "Oh my God, you work such a dangerous job," right? But she gets incredibly concerned that I would go date somebody, meet in a public place, right? Ride the public transit to meet up with her in public where I could easily walk away, right? And not share my actual name on the dating profile, and yet she gets so concerned. Why? Never, and I just can't understand that, right? I just cannot understand. For the life of me, I cannot understand that. So a few years ago, my mom was really concerned about my attitudes toward COVID, and for a time, I was a little bit cautious too. But then my a friend of mine died of COVID. He was a close friend of mine, actually. He and I feuded over a girl when we were in college. He died of COVID. After he died of COVID, I actually found myself relaxing my COVID precautions because I realized that, hey, if he could take that trip, maybe I can too. It's not that I want to take that trip. No, it's that it's one event out of a sea of events that could happen, and sometimes we need to weigh probabilities in our life, right? So for example, all of us could lock ourselves up in a way that might keep us safe but result in a lower quality of life, right? um, when I was 8 years old when I lost my first grandparent. My grandfather on my mother's side passed away. At the time, I probably didn't really fully appreciate the concept of death. Even at earlier this week, my mom was commenting about how me and my cousin behaved at his funeral. It really made her cringe. I was 8 years old. My cousin was 9 years old. And then my grandfather on my father's side passed away 13 years ago. And I almost missed the funeral. I was busy writing a computer game. I didn't want to go to the funeral, and I told my brother, "You can go without me. Don't worry about it. I got important game ideas. Fuck our grandpa." And my brother was so upset by that remark. He said, "Fuck you," and my brother almost never cusses. He said, "Fuck you." And then at my grandmother's funeral, I had to make the trip in a huge hurry, and I spent a lot of money. I was really I was upset because, I finally have a girlfriend here, and I had planned some things, but now I can't do them because I spent the money on the trip. And so the first day at the funeral, after we got home, at my at my uncle's home, my dad and my uncle went out for something, and they were really late getting home. I was really upset because I didn't have a key to their home, and I needed them to get home so I can go out. I'm not a homebody. And when my dad finally got home, I was so upset at him, and I cussed him out for not giving me the key. And then I said, I spent $3,000 for this trip, and all I got was to lock up in a jail cell. And finally we argued, and it got heated, and I shouted, "All because your stupid mother passed away." And my dad was so upset by that remark. He wanted to kill me over that remark. After we had made up our differences, he reimbursed me for the trip, so now it's good. But it just gives you I just think of death as any other event, right? Just like any other event that might cost me $3,000, right? If my car breaks down, I'll probably have a meltdown just like that, right? If my computer breaks down, if any number of things that might cost me money. right? A car accident, or that doesn't hurt me, or uh, 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 any number of things, right? I lose at a backgammon tournament. I usually don't like to gamble a lot, but I'll gamble some just to participate, right? Probably not enough to cause me any upset, though. But you get the idea, right? A girl that I'm dating robs me of $3,000. Right? That could happen, right? Again, it's one of those things. Yeah, you can take precautions, but are you willing to not take them in order to not live your life, right? And it's just one of those things, right? And then my so one grandparent remains, my grandmother on my mother's side, and I feel badly for her. She's been widowed a lot longer, or a little bit longer now than she's been widowed for a little bit longer than her now, and so I wonder how she's getting past that. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.